A man and a woman went to Las Vegas for their honeymoon and checked into a hotel suite. Upon entering their room, they immediately noticed a foul odor. The husband called the front desk to speak with the manager, explaining the issue and requesting a different suite. The manager apologized, explaining that the hotel was fully booked due to a convention. As compensation, he offered to send the couple to a restaurant of their choice for lunch and promised to send a maid to clean the room and eliminate the odor. After enjoying a nice lunch, the couple returned to their room, only to find that the unpleasant smell persisted. Frustrated, the husband called the front desk again to report that the room still reeked. The manager informed him that they would try to find a suite at another hotel, but all hotels on the strip were sold out due to the convention. He assured the couple they would clean the room again. Determined to explore and do some gambling, the couple agreed to give the hotel 2 hours to address the issue. When they left, the manager and housekeeping staff searched the suite for the source of the odor. They thoroughly inspected the room, but found nothing amiss. The maids replaced the sheets and towels, took down the curtains, cleaned the carpet, and used the strongest cleaning products available. When the couple returned 2 hours later, the smell was still there. Angry and desperate to find the source, the husband began tearing the suite apart. When he lifted the top mattress off the box spring, he discovered the dead body of a woman. Story 2. Meanwhile, I was on my honeymoon in Hawaii with my wife. While sitting on the beach on Oahu, my wife went to the bathroom. Upon returning, she told me that a creepy man had been watching her. When she attempted to leave, he blocked her path, and she only managed to escape because 2 other people entered the bathroom, forcing him to step aside. I asked her to describe the man, but by then, he had vanished. Our hotel was within walking distance of the beach, so we returned quickly. We reported the incident to a police officer we saw on the beach before washing up for dinner. We enjoyed a meal at a fancy seafood restaurant and walked around afterward. Close to midnight, we returned to our room to wind down. Suddenly there was a knock at the door. I peered through the peephole and saw a man in a maid's uniform. When I opened the door, he attempted to push his way in. I pushed him back and asked what he wanted. He claimed he had left something in the room while cleaning and needed to retrieve it. However, we had placed a "Do Not Disturb" sign on the door all day. I noticed he was making eye contact with my wife, which made me uneasy. Then, my wife screamed, "That's the man!" Confused, I reacted too late. The man lunged at me, grabbing my throat with one hand and reaching for something in his pocket with the other. He pulled out a knife and began swinging at me. Thankfully, my wife struck him with a lamp, saving my life. The commotion attracted the attention of neighboring guests, and one woman started screaming, escalating the situation. We called the police, and so did the hotel. It turned into a chaotic scene, but we were just relieved to be alive. When the police arrived, they questioned us, and other guests corroborated our account. We still don't know what the man's intentions were, but I suspect he targeted my wife. It was astonishingly reckless of him to think he could get away with such behavior in a public place. Story 3. My wife, our 2 kids, and I were driving from New York to Florida for a trip to Disney. We were in Georgia, close to the Florida border, around 11 p.m. I planned to finish the drive that night to save on hotel costs. My wife and kids were asleep, so I drove as smoothly as possible on the quiet highway. Suddenly, I spotted 2 flashing red lights on the horizon, more like SOS lights than police lights. Cautiously, I slowed down. As I approached, I saw a car parked in the middle of the road, deliberately blocking traffic, with 2 cones on either side and SOS lights flashing on the ground. 2 hooded men approached my car. I quickly put the car in reverse, ready to escape. One of the men reached my window, and I cracked it open, just enough to hear him say, "Yes, open the door." I shut the window and noticed him reaching into his pocket. I shifted the car back into drive and accelerated, driving over the cones and SOS lights. About a minute later, I noticed headlights rapidly approaching from behind. My wife woke up, confused by our speed. I told her to stay quiet and informed her we were being followed. The car behind us started flashing its lights, and then I heard a loud pop. I felt the car losing control. There was another loud pop, and the car began dragging. I instructed my wife to call 911, knowing it might already be too late. My kids were awake, scared, and crying. I kept the car moving as long as I could, but the car following us started ramming our trunk. Just when I thought we were doomed, I heard sirens and saw red and blue lights approaching. The car behind us veered off at the exit we were passing, and the police followed them. I pulled over, took the phone from my wife, and explained everything to the police. Upon inspection, we discovered that both our back tires had been shot out. 10 minutes later, a squad car arrived, along with an AAA truck. The officers informed us they had arrested the 2 men. Another driver had stumbled upon their roadblock and managed to escape before calling the police. Story 4. When my sister was in her 20s, she vacationed with her now husband in St. Martin. They rented a car to explore the island. One day, while sightseeing on an isolated side road, they spotted a car partially hidden in the crops. As they approached, they saw it was a rusty, unmarked blue car that had apparently swerved off the road. My sister's husband stopped the car and instructed her to wait inside while he checked it out. She watched as he peered through the windows, searching for anyone inside. Suddenly, he jumped back in shock. Concerned, she got out to see what had startled him. They crouched down to look under the car and were horrified to find 2 men holding large knives with a bloody dead body lying between them. Her husband quickly pushed her back into the car and jumped in just in time to drive away. They rushed to the nearest sign of civilization, ensuring they weren't being followed, and called the police. Both of them get uneasy when the incident is discussed, so we try not to remind them of it. However, I can tell my sister has been different ever since. Story 5. When I was 16, my grandparents treated our family to a 10-day Royal Caribbean cruise to Florida and the Bahamas. I was with my parents, 2 brothers, my sister and her boyfriend, my aunt and uncle, and my cousins. I spent most of my time with my older brother Rob, who was 20. We shared a room, claiming our dad was staying with us. One night, I snuck into the ship's nightclub using someone else's ID card. Inside, I noticed an older, creepy-looking man staring intently at me. Feeling uncomfortable, I left and found my sister and her boyfriend at the bar outside the club. A few moments later, I spotted the same man sitting across the room, still watching me. I looked away, trying to ignore him, but my heart raced. I considered telling my sister, but ultimately decided against it. I left the bar and quickly walked back to our room, glancing over my shoulder to check for followers. Upon reaching our room, I felt a sense of relief. However, when I knocked on the door, I noticed it was slightly open and the light was on. I was sure we had closed it before leaving, and no room service would have been there at this hour. Cautiously, I pushed the door, open completely. The room was empty, and I checked the bathroom, but it was also unoccupied. Assuming Rob had returned and forgotten to shut the door, I went to bed. I was awakened in the dark by something brushing against my cheek. It was a hand. I pushed it away, thinking it was Rob playing a prank, but then I realized he was in his bed across the room. I screamed loudly, and Rob jumped up, turning on the lamp. To my horror, the man from the club was standing next to me. Rob lunged at him, throwing punches, and I joined in as we subdued the intruder. Within moments, frantic knocking echoed at the door. It was our parents. My dad held the man down while we called customer service. Security arrived and took the man to the ship's jail for the remainder of the cruise. I'm not sure what happened to him afterward, but the incident left me emotionally scarred. I doubt I'll ever go on another cruise again.